Today we'll be talking about airsoft pistols, and specifically the question, do I get a green gas or a CO2 powered airsoft pistol? Each system has their own advantages and disadvantages, and we'll be talking about those in today's video. What's up, Airsofters? My name is Lane, and welcome back to the BB Warrior. We're here to help you have a better time both on and off the airsoft field through our educational content. And if you enjoy videos like these, I'd love it if you joined our community by hitting that subscribe button down below, and while you're at it, make sure to hit the bell icon next to it for updates when we post brand new videos every single Friday here on the channel. Now, when you're looking to buy your first airsoft pistol, or any airsoft pistol I should say, keep in mind that most of them are either going to be strictly CO2 only or strictly green gas only. Now, while I say that, there are some exceptions, like this gun from ASG. This is their CZ-P09, and as a side note, I got this gun from Fox Airsoft, the sponsor of today's video. I love it so far. It has an amazing fit and finish. Expect a review on this in the near future. But getting back into the topic of today's video, they do exist for dual power source airsoft guns. However, when you're loading either CO2 or green gas, the loading procedure is going to be different for how you put the power source into the magazine. Now, for CO2 magazines in particular, it's very easy to spot one, because you're typically going to have this nice big cutout in them, and that is where you're going to put your 12-gram CO2 cartridge. Now, these can be purchased at airsoft stores, at airsoft fields, and as well you can find them at most like Walmart, sporting goods stores, that type of thing, because they're used for more than just airsoft. They're used for like other types of air rifles, that sort of thing. So you can typically find them in the hunting section of most stores, so it's easier to find than green gas. And what I like about this is it's pretty simple. It does require a tool to load it, which is a disadvantage over green gas, but CO2 tends to be a little bit more consistent. We'll talk about that more when we get into the pros and cons. But to load a green gas magazine, these will be easily notified, or you'll be easily able to notice that this is green gas, because it doesn't have that large cutout, because there's a gas reservoir in here. How you're going to be able to tell it is green gas is there's going to be a tiny little fill valve on the bottom, and that will be to fill with your green gas can, a can of propane, or in some cases even duster gas like keyboard cleaner. Now, the difference between these three systems is that green gas and propane are, in all honesty, practically the same thing. Green gas has silicone in it to help lubricate your O-rings, and it doesn't have the rotten egg smell that is added to propane in case there is a gas leak. Green gas is more expensive, however, at airsoft fields, it's what you're going to find. Propane is much cheaper, but you are going to have to go to a sporting goods store, so you can't find it on the field, and you do need to purchase an adapter to use the fill valve, which is as simple as inverting the can, putting it in the fill valve, and pushing down until you audibly hear it stop filling into the magazine. Some may come out of the O-ring when it is completely filled. CO2 has some really distinct advantages over green gas, and I think that is most commonly seen in consistency. Because CO2 is a much higher pressure that is then regulated down before it goes out of the gun when you fire, it tends to have better shot-to-shot consistency in terms of FPS and range down to the last bit of air in your magazine. Now, the nice thing about CO2 again is that because it has more air, because you are using those tiny little CO2 cartridges, you can typically get more than one mag off, especially if you use a CO2 airsoft pistol with a lower capacity in the magazine. Think like the Elite Force 1911 TAC, which only has 14 rounds in the magazine. You can easily get 3, possibly even 4 magazines off with a single CO2 cartridge. Another great thing about CO2, because it is a higher pressure, it performs better in the cold than green gas. And I'm not talking about the freezing, I'm talking about like below 50 degrees. CO2 just tends to be better. You're going to again get more consistency shot to shot, especially as you get towards the end of your gas. At the same time, CO2 airsoft guns tend to be a little bit less expensive than their green gas counterparts. Now, you can take that with a grain of salt, because there are some really inexpensive CO2 airsoft pistols out there, but they are bad. They don't regulate that gas down, so they end up shooting like 500 FPS. This is really common in a lot of revolvers. So make sure that you are buying your CO2 airsoft guns from a more reputable company. Again, I love this one from ASG. Elite Force has a lot of CO2 pistols out there on the market. And finally, if this is your thing, CO2 has a much higher or much harder kick than green gas out there. But at the same time, the system does have some disadvantages. Now, let's talk about some of the disadvantages of CO2 airsoft guns. And the one that really bothers me the most is it requires a tool to change out the gas. So when you try to remove that CO2, you're going to need the Allen key to unscrew it out of the magazine, obviously. That takes a lot of time. There's waste with the CO2 cartridge, which unfortunately most players just kind of leave there on the ground. It takes a lot longer than green gas, where you can simply press the can down to make sure that you have more gas in the gun, and you can kind of fill it as you need, I guess you could say. At the same time, if you don't buy CO2 from a very reputable company, again, think ASG, think Elite Force, if you don't buy from companies like that, they're going to shoot really hot, and you probably won't be able to use your pistol in an indoor, possibly even an outdoor environment, depending on how badly they regulate down the FPS. There's also less options for CO2 airsoft guns out there on the market. My personal recommendations would again be the CZ-P09 from ASG, and again the offerings from Elite Force. Specifically, I really like their CO2 USP. It shoots laser beams, and I really like it. Now let's talk about green gas airsoft guns, because I think that, again, while I've kind of been talking down on them, they do have some really great advantages over CO2 that we haven't mentioned so far. Talking about green gas as a power source, I think that it really does have some advantages, and it's why I own more green gas airsoft pistols than CO2. And the one that really gets me the most is cost efficiency. Now, the price of green gas handguns are typically going to be a little bit more than your CO2 counterparts. But you make that money back with your shooting, because again, green gas, or especially propane, is much cheaper than going through these CO2 cartridges. Whereas you could be spending, 50 cents to $1 each one of these, you're going to spend $14 on a can like this, $5 on a can of propane, and that is going to last you countless magazines. I've had this particular bottle of green gas. I think I got this in late 2017, in all honesty. Again, we mentioned this earlier, but with green gas, if you just need to top off your magazine when you're starting to run out of gas, that is a possibility as well, which is nice, so you don't have to end up wasting any CO2 if you want to make sure that you have the full amount in there, anything like that. That's one of the biggest disadvantages that I find with CO2, is that gas isn't trapped in there, it's trapped in this cartridge, so you can't remove it and put a fresh one in. You're going to lose all of that gas. It's going to go all over and be a generally bad time. I've also never seen a green gas pistol that shoots over the FPS limits for a field, which is great, because you can pretty much guarantee that most green gas pistols out there on the market are going to shoot in that 330 to 340 FPS range with a .20 gram BB, which is going to get you into any outdoor and especially any indoor fields that may exist. There is some disadvantages with green gas though, in terms of FPS. When it's hot out, they shoot significantly hotter. Like in 90-degree weather, I notice about 15 FPS higher, but when it gets cold out, again about 50 degrees or lower, when it starts to get a little bit chilly, you want to wear a jacket, green gas really fails, which is why I typically abandon pistols altogether after about October, because I live here in upstate New York where it snows half the year. That is going to be one of those disadvantages of green gas airsoft guns. It's just one of those things that you kind of have to live with. So each system really has their advantages and their disadvantages. It's truly going to matter on what you find more important as a player. If you're somewhere where it's colder, like 8 months out of the year, it snows a lot, it might be more worth it to buy CO2. And honestly, this is why I love getting options like the CZ-P09 that I've been showing off in this video, because I can switch over to those CO2 magazines during the colder months, where I can make sure that, I need that extra pressure, but when I'm going indoor, if it's just really hot out, I can switch over to the green gas where I don't need that, and the green gas as well, because it doesn't shoot as hot, tends to have less recoil on it as well, so I feel a little bit more accurate. So I really like systems like this, like the CZ-P09 from ASG. But if you're looking for your own airsoft handgun, I would highly recommend Fox Airsoft. Again, they are the sponsor of today's video, and without them, this video simply would not have been possible. What I like about them is that they have a great option of green gas handguns, of CO2 handguns, and ones that do a little bit of both, like this one from ASG. I really like the selection that they have. They're going to have the brands that you want to trust. Again, I really like ASG and Elite Force Umarex personally. Elite Force has a huge variety of pistols out there for you to check out. Whatever is the most comfortable. You can shop on their website at foxairsoft.com, or if you are local, you can even head into their retail store. I will have all of their information, as well as this particular handgun, down in the description below for you guys to check out. I want to know, what has your personal experience been with airsoft pistols and their power sources? Make sure to let me know down in the description below. I would love to hear which one you guys, the viewers, tend to prefer. But if this was your first time here, I would love it if you joined our community by hitting that subscribe button down below. And while you're at it, make sure to hit the bell icon next to it for updates when we post brand new videos every single Friday here on the channel. Make sure to check me out on social media. Links will be down in the description below. But this has been Lane from the BB Warrior, talking about green gas versus CO2 power for airsoft pistols, and I'll see you all next time.